Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Division 1 of the Intelligence Racing League Sprint Championship. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Car Mentalist. I'll be taking you through the action as always, and alongside me today is my trusty co-coms for the season. It's Ivor Bryn Mike. How you doing, mate?
Not bad, mate. Hoping for a pretty good one around here. It
Yeah.
can chuck up some very interesting races, good old Hockenheim.
Yeah, absolutely. Germany's definitely a very good racing track, as proved in real life. Obviously, Germany was voted, I think, best race of the season last season for Formula One, and on this game, it promotes just as good racing as well. So, fingers crossed, we have some races that are on the same level as the previous two we've had. I think Bahrain and Spain were the rounds we've had so far, and both races have thrown up some really good action. But just looking at the standings coming into this race now. The top three have kind of been the same throughout the season so far. So Lewis currently leads the championship after a third place finish in Bahrain and a win and a fastest lap in Spain. He leads on 41 points. He's 4 points clear of Just As, the race winner from Bahrain. Unfortunately, Just As I don't believe is racing today, so he won't be taking part, which is a shame. He won't be able to keep up with the likes of Lewis in the championship, unfortunately, today. Hopefully he can come back next week and bounce back in the championship. Third place after a second and a third place finish in the previous two races is Toxic. He's a further 4 points behind Just As on 33. Janetsky, after two fairly inconspicuous races, honestly, he's been running around bottom end of the top 10, and then late safety cars or some sort of chaos in front has brought Janetsky up the grid in terms of results. He's had two fifth place finishes so far. He is fourth for Ferrari. He's on 20 points. Behind him is NLR Mike. He took a shock podium last time out on penalties, so he came second last time out in Spain. McCrew, our Season 1 champion, is currently 6th in the standings, ahead of Matty in 7th. Ryan is in 8th. Unfortunately, I don't think Ryan is taking part today. Daniel is currently running in 9th, and 10th is rounded off by Toxic Jacques in the Alfa Romeo. Just looking at the standings, obviously, at the moment, Lewis leads the championship. Do you think at the moment it's already turned into a three-horse race, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, from the looks of it, it is looking a bit like a three-horse race, but I mean, we can't forget that Bullet Boy can definitely get up there.
Mm.
LR Ghost, who also isn't here today, I don't know if he's dropped out of the season, but he's missed the last race and this one. He could easily get himself up into some decent positions as well, so there's still a few guys who haven't yet showed what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a number of people. Maybe McCrew wasn't so lucky last time out. He was on for a possible podium. Obviously, that didn't go his way in the end in Spain, but he should be probably on more points than he is at the moment. He's currently on 12 and 6th in the standings. LNR Mike, he didn't actually race in Bahrain, and he got a podium first time out last time, so he's obviously got quite a lot in his back pocket, and he could definitely bring the fight to the guys in front as well. So there's a number of people, like you say, that can really jump up the standings. We're just getting ready to go, actually. I believe we've got 18 drivers today. So yeah, just about ready to go for qualifying. Before we go into qualifying and before we see what the weather is, do you have any predictions as to who you think is going to come out on top in Germany today?
I mean, this is going to be a lot more trickier than the likes of Bahrain and Spain, because it all depends on turn one for these guys, isn't it?
Yeah, turn one is definitely a killer, especially on the first lap. It can really take a lot of people out of the running. Let us know, guys, in the chat what your predictions are for qualifying. Who do you think is going to come out on top? Who do you think's got the pace to take the race win? Let us know. I'm sure Jav will sending his predictions pretty swiftly, but we'll wait and see what everyone decides. But yeah, we're just about ready to go. We'll wait and see what the weather does for the drivers today. It's been pretty much bone dry the entire season so far.
Yeah, if there's going to be any rain, this is going to be one of those tracks where it's going to be very likely it could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely very likely. By the looks of qualifying, we are bone dry once again, but obviously we don't know what the weather's going to be like for the race, and a mix in weather conditions in the race can really throw up some different setup strategies and race strategies and loads of different things as well, and those who shine in the wet may not necessarily shine in the dry, so you never know what's going to happen. We'll just wait and see, though. Who's the first person out onto the track?
Well, it is looking a bit cloudy up above, so you never know. It could be rain at the end of the session.
Yeah, absolutely. As I predicted, Java's put in his qualifying predictions. He thinks Toxic is going to take pole today. He thinks Lewis is going to be second, and ILR team Matty will be third. And his race predictions is Toxic and Lewis for the top two, and he's put Dylan in third place. for the race itself. So that's their predictions. We also just had a message in from Bullet Boy saying that it might be wet at the end of the race. So it looks like we are getting some weather towards the end.
Well, that should spice things up a nice little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And does that mean that I wonder if anyone's going to compromise their setup in qualifying maybe for the wet conditions at the end of the race, or what would you do in that situation? Do you think you'd try and stick with a full dry setup and make the most of the dry conditions, or would you adjust it slightly for the wet at the end?
I'd maybe just bump up your ride height just a little bit. Just a tiny bit, 'cause you never know, and that ride height could make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I mean,
one thing I would look at when on the formation lap, and when you're looking at your race strategy, it might be worth looking if it's going medium to the Indus, so you can stay off the hards.
yeah, that definitely is a good strategy. It might be the case of you don't need to run two different tyre compounds, so a medium strategy could work very well. First person onto our lap though today is McCrew. Let's see what he can do. He goes through turn 1, runs over the curb, but doesn't invalidate his time, so he can continue on. He's running around on the hard tyres. We've got a little bit of a mix of tyre strategies at the moment. We've got a few people running out on hards and a few people running out on softs. It's going to be pretty similar to Bahrain in that some people are going to try and go for the alternate strategy and start on the soft tyres, but the majority of the field will probably end up trying to start on the mediums.
Everyone's on hards on my screen.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we've got another one of those again, but we'll wait and see then what everyone's times are on the tyres. Yeah, we'll just wait and see what McCrew can do. We've got a yellow flag on. We've got one of the Toro Rosso slowing down. Meanwhile, I believe the Red Bulls are giving each other the slipstream at the moment, down through the Parabolica into turn 6, the turn 6 hairpin. Obviously, the Parabolica at Hockenheim, don't mistake that with the Parabolica at Monza. But we'll wait and see McCrew through the middle part of the lap. It's a 49.9 at the end of the second sector. I think that's just been beaten by the Renault that's behind him on a lap. I think that might be Sparholt on a lap behind him.
Yeah, it's Sparholt.
Yeah, so let's see McCrew then through the last two corners. Tricky last two corners to get right. Evokes a lot of understeer, especially the last corner. He gets the power down pretty early. Comes up to the line, a relatively short run to the line, and it's a 12.3 on his first lap on the hards for McCrew. Let's see if Sparholt behind beats that. 2 tenths behind.
5.
Yeah, 2 tenths behind. So he had the fastest middle sector, but he wasn't quite able to top McCrew overall in the lap time. But it does look like Sparholt has got some good pace in that Renault. Just wait and see for the Red Bulls to come across the line now. I believe it's going to be Toxic that's crossing the line first. Although it looks like
he invalidated.
Yeah, it does look like that, doesn't it? So, meanwhile, Bullet Boy's just jumped up to second in the Alfa Romeo on a 12.4. He goes directly in between Sparholt and McCrew. Aquaplaning has a relatively poor lap, so does J. Luke. J. Luke's going for another run by the looks of things. He must have made a mistake on his first lap to be in the 23s. Let's wait and see who's coming on the line. It's going to be one of the Williams to cross the line next. It's going to be Lewis then that's going to come up to the line. Yeah, so he is on the hards actually. It says soft on the side, on the banner on the side, but he is running the hards on the screen, so ignore the tyre the tyre selection on the side of the screen for me. But let's see what Lewis can do. And it's a 12.2. We go straight to pole by less than a tenth of a second. He takes provisional pole position. We've got one of the Ferraris coming up to the line now. That's LR Patrick. He crosses the line. So does Matty. Matty goes into third in the Toro Rosso on a 12.4. He goes just ahead of Bullet Boy. But again, another really close qualifying so far. I know we're only about 6 minutes and only a few runs into the session, but again, another really close qualifying.
Yeah, and the Renault of Just Chris got some traffic to negotiate here with the Red Bull of Toxic. I think Dylan would be just a bit too far ahead to worry him.
Yeah,
just pulled into the bits.
Yeah, and it's a 12.8 for Just Chris in the end. I believe Dylan invalidated his lap as well, so not the best start for the Red Bulls. Both have invalidated their only first runs on the hard tyres. They'll probably go for another run on the hards and then probably move to the mediums.
Jack, 13 flat, and his teammate, I believe, was right behind him.
That was Bullet Boy, yeah. Bullet Boy didn't improve on his lap, I don't think.
I think that was a cool down lap.
Ah. Yeah, it does seem like that, actually. Let's see if he can improve in the first sector then. Is his Alfa Romeo teammate going to give him a slipstream? He's not. He's moved out of the way. A tenth up.
If I was Toxic Jacques, then I would have given Bullet Boy the slipstream.
Yeah, I think it's definitely very powerful here, and obviously the straight is quite a long straight actually, so it is very easy to give slipstream here. But he decided to move out the Bullet Boy's way instead, not getting his way. But Bullet Boy had a pretty good first sector. Let's see if he can keep that pace up in the middle part of the lap. Uses a lot of curb on the inside of that kink into the left-hander. Quite a long corner, actually. It can catch people out, especially on traction for this corner. It kind of dips just before the right-hander. As he comes up to the end of the second sector, he's still a tenth up. So this is going to put him ahead of Matty and possibly within striking distance of McCrew if he keeps it up in the last sector of the lap. We've got a yellow flag somewhere. That's for the other Alfa Romeo, just moving out of the way of one of the Mercedes drivers. That will be Mike, who's on his first one, I believe. Here comes Bullet Boy, though, around the last two corners. Nice smooth line through the last corner. Doesn't use all the exit curb, but crosses the line, and it's a 12-2. He does go ahead of McCrew in the end, in between McCrew and Lewis. He's about 600ths of a second off pole provisionally. Meanwhile, Mike jumps in on a 12-7 on his second lap on the hard tyres, and he goes in between the two Renault drivers.
Yep, and I believe we got Aquaplaning just, I think he's just finished his lap, actually, with a 13-7.
Yeah, seems to be struggling. Yeah, seems to be struggling a little bit at the moment for pace on these hard tyres, and it does look like he's running quite a lot of fuel by the looks of things. We've just had one of the Haas drivers cross the line, I believe. That was Hardy.
Yes, Hardy.
Yeah, and Janetsky's just crossed the line now as well. He's just gone into 10th on a 13-1 as well. 4 thousandths of a second behind Toxic Jack. Just a heads up, though, for Hardy. As far as I'm aware, this is Hardy's first race on a wheel, actually. He's recently bought a wheel. He's been running on pad usually, but he's now using a wheel for the first time. So good luck to him. Hopefully that all works out for him and he enjoys using a wheel. Let's see who else is on a lap at the moment.
As someone that's practiced with him while he's been using a wheel, I can confirm he's not liking it so far.
Yeah, he's definitely running around at 18-1 at the moment, just getting a banker lap in before he can then improve on that. Meanwhile, the two racing points giving each other slipstream. Daniel given a slipstream by McCrew. Let's see what Daniel can do in the middle part of the lap. A 49.8 is kind of what you want to aim for if you're going to be on provisional pole by the end of the second sector. Got one of the Ferraris in front. He moves out of the way very nicely. See for the racing point as he comes around the right-hander just before the end of the second sector. And it's a 50 flat, so he's about 2 tenths off at the moment. This is going to put him around Sparholt and Matty at this point.
There we go, that's a better lap from Hardy. 13-7.
Yeah, 13-7, more competitive from Hardy now. He's just behind Aquaplaning.
Oh, I was just on board with Cohen. Big, massive snap. I forget what corner it is after the stadium section. Just before the second sector split, he just got a massive snap on the exit there.
Well, Holden, it looks like he's continuing with his lap. Fair enough. Let's see if he crosses the line. Meanwhile, Daniel put a 12-4. Oh, another snap from Cohen at the last corner. And it's only a 13-2 in the end for the McLaren driver. Definitely more pace in that car. Oh, and a big snap at turn one as well. Wow, he's all over the road. Well held, but Christ.
He is really struggling with the car at the moment.
He really is, yeah. Meanwhile, Toxic has invalidated a lap time again by the looks of things. So he's not going to be...
Dylan.
Yeah, so both Red Bulls still have not set a time yet. They're still waiting down at the back of the field. Dylan at the moment, I believe, is on the softs.
Yeah, this just seems like a bit of pressure for Dylan. This is a pressure move.
It absolutely is, and it's a 15-6 first sector. It's a brilliantly fast first sector for Dylan, so this is going to definitely put him towards the front of the field. See if anyone else is currently improving on a lap. Patrick was about 2 tenths up in the first sector on his set of hard tyres. For the middle part of the lap, he's 5 tenths up now in the middle part of the lap, so this is a good lap so far from Patrick. Through the long banked corner in the stadium section. Meanwhile, McCrew improves a 12 flat for the Racing Point driver, so he goes 3 tenths faster than his personal best. Jumps to the front of the field ahead of Lewis.
Lewis, I believe, just invalidated.
Lewis invalidated his run, that's why he's not going to improve. Patrick, meanwhile, jumps up to 7th with a 12.6. Good lap from Patrick. Quite a big improvement in the end, actually. About 6 tenths of a second improvement. Callum has joined the session.
Bullet Boy is just up on his time at the moment, so we'll see if he can gain any more in the final sector, but he's gone
there goes Dylan.
wide.
And there goes Dylan with his run on the soft tyres. He goes to an 11.2 to the front of the field. He's only 8 tenths of a second clear of McCrew, and McCrew's on the hard tyres, so I still think that time is beatable by from a medium run from someone else, so Dylan's probably going to have to try and improve again on that time.
Sparholt with a 12.2, he jumps ahead of Bullet Boy.
He does, yeah. So the Renault driver jumps up the field now. We've got one of the Alfa Romeos coming to the line. I think that was Toxic Jacques. I don't think he improved on his lap in the end. Lewis will be next across the line, but he's currently invalidated his time. It looks like he's still pushing, though. I think he's just trying to see what kind of pace he has before he moves on to maybe another set of tyres. And he actually just dives into the pits in the end, so he doesn't continue on with that run.
Hype's coming into the final corner now. He is 2 tenths up on his time.
Yeah, let's see what Hypes can do when he crosses the line. And it's a 1 minute 12.7. He goes into 10th place. He goes just ahead of just Chris and just behind Mike in P9. So pretty decent lap so far from Hypes. Kind of midfield is where he probably expects himself to be. But let's see what he can do. Matty, meanwhile, crosses the line and he doesn't improve. He made a mistake on that run somewhere, so he's going again by the looks of things. Very committed through turn 1.
Well, this is going to be the moment now where people are going to start to come into the pits, chuck on the mediums and start to sight themselves up for their medium run.
Absolutely, yeah. Matty takes a very shallow line coming out of turn 3 before the long straight. He takes a very shallow line, doesn't run on the apex on the outside of the corner, but he is a 10th and a half up in the first sector. Let's see what he can do for the rest of the lap. At the moment, 2 Toro Rossos and one of the Williams, J. Luke, who's just about to start the lap. The only ones on the track at the moment. Everyone else waiting for the best conditions at the end of the session to set their medium times on by the looks of things. Here comes Matty though. Into the end of the second part of the lap. He's 49.9, so it's a pretty decent lap so far for Matty. This is going to jump him right to the front of the field. Currently running in 6th. Through the long band corner in the stadium section. Very technical part of the lap. This incredibly difficult to get it right. He's running incredibly low on ERS, is Matty. He's just derating before the last corner as well, so that is going to cost him down the straight before the line. And it's a 12.3, so he improves by a 10th of a second, but doesn't gain any places from it.
Yeah, and Sparholtz after session.
That's such a shame. He had that problem in Spain last time out, unfortunately. Meanwhile, J. Luke, the only person at the moment on the track, other than
He invalidated it.
Matty. Yeah, he did invalidate, and I believe he's on the mediums as well. So yeah, he is on the medium tyres at the moment. So that's such a shame for him. Meanwhile, Sparholt he's joined back in the session, so hopefully he can get back in his car. We've got one of the Haas cars coming out of the pits. That will be Hardy. Just having a look through the chat as well in the stream. Everyone's seemingly pretty excited for the rain, especially Jav. He's definitely looking forward to the rain. I think Jordan JT's put in his predictions. He thinks Toxic's going to win ahead of Lewis and then McCrew third.
I was just on board with J. Luke then as he goes through turn 1, and it was a very tentative turn 1.
Yeah, let's see what his first sector is. It's a 15.9, so it's not really a competitive first sector at all. However, he is getting a little slipstream from his teammate, although Lewis is a little bit further up the road, so that's not really the best slipstream that J. Luke could have hoped for. But into the hairpin, he keeps it nice and tight to the apex. Goes into the second part of the lap then. Keeps it nice and tidy. He's not using a lot of the road, is J. Luke. He's being very neat and tidy. Again, not using a lot of the road on the exit of that corner either. And it's only a 49.9 at the end of the second sector on a set of medium, so this is just going to put him at the front of the field, but his lap time is definitely beatable at the moment. So he comes through the stadium section.
I don't even think that's going to be at the front of the field. That's only going to get him just outside the top 10.
Yeah, it's definitely not looking strong enough at the moment for J. Luke as he comes around the last corner. He's got a little bit of traffic in Daniel, but I don't think that'll affect him too much. Here comes J. Luke to the line and is only 5th on a set of medium tyres. So J. Luke cannot improve on that position at the moment. Still got 3 minutes left in the session, but only one set of medium tyres. So J. Luke only 5th so far.
And now we'll get the Williams of J. Luke returning the favour to Lewis now with the slipstream.
Yeah, let's see what Lewis can do. Pretty strong slipstream here for Lewis from J. Luke. Though J. Luke, the catching speed is quite big between the two Williams cars, and that slipstream hasn't quite worked in the end. See Lewis down into the hairpin though. There's a lot of traffic in front of Lewis. He's really going to struggle here. That's Bullet Boy moving out the way. Good stuff from Bullet Boy. But we've got 2 racing points in front. One of the racing points is on a lap, I believe. I believe that's Daniel. He's on a run at the moment, so he's got to make sure that if he does catch him in the end, that they don't get involved in each other's laps. We've got Mike, I believe, in front of them on a lap as well.
Sure. And look at what we got by here. The racing points 2x2. The Williams 2x2, the Red Bulls and Ferraris 2x2.
2x2. Yeah, brilliant team strategies just alone in qualifying. Can't wait for the race. Meanwhile, here comes Mike up to the line. Let's see what his time is. And he goes second on 11.6. So a much better lap from Mike. And Daniel goes in only in 11.8. So Daniel can't beat that time. Here comes Lewis though, and it's an 11.4. So 2 tenths ahead of Mike, but he's still 2 tenths behind Dylan. believe Dylan's on another lap, but he's on the softs and he's invalidated again by the looks of things, so he's not going to be improving on an 11.2 at the moment. Meanwhile, McCrew's just started a lap.
Slipstream for McCrew from Daniel.
Yeah, let's see, down the straight. Very good slipstream here from Daniel. Daniel's going to have to move out the way, make sure he doesn't crash into the back of Mike. Yeah, moves out the way just in time. McCrew nice and late on the brakes, gets it just about stopped for the hairpin. Here we go in the second part of that, through the kink. We've got another car off to the left-hand side. That's Cohen. Meanwhile, I believe just had another person jump up the field. That's Toxic Jack. He does a 12.2. He goes into 6th place. Next across the line will be McCrew. Let's see where McCrew goes. I can't quite see how far up he is, but he's purple middle sector, so it's a good lap so far. We've got one of the Williams has spun on the exit of the first sector. Not quite sure who that is. I believe that's actually Lewis by the looks of things that spun. Here comes McCrew though through the last corner. Lewis has retired from the session. McCrew very wide coming out the last corner, uses all the road, and it's 11.6. He goes just ahead of Mike, but isn't able to quite match Lewis in the end.
He's going for another one though.
He is. Bullet Boy, meanwhile, jumps in front of McCrew. He goes to P3. Also looks like Mike is going for another run, but Mike invalidates at turn 1, so he will not be improving, unfortunately, on that 11.6.
A couple of attempts up.
Yeah, Hypes goes to 10th on a 12.2. Here comes the other Toro Rosso then across the line. And it's an 11.7, and it goes behind Mike and ahead of Daniel. But once again, we've got 3 people in an 11.6. I wonder if we can add to that list. Janetzi goes 8th on an 11.9. His teammate beats him by 11 thousandths of a second and goes P8 instead now. Got one of the Red Bulls coming up to the line. I believe that was Toxic. Toxic only ends up in 6th. It's an 11.7. He can't really improve on his time.
Oh, it's Patrick's just lost it.
Oh, and there's contact. I think Toxic was on a lap and there's been contact between Toxic and Hardy. That's really bizarre. I think Toxic was continuing on with a lap and there was contact with the Haas driver who was off the side of the road, and now Toxic has finished the session with front wing damage. That's a shame for Toxic. Let's see if anyone else is improving. Dylan did another lap on a set of softs and didn't improve. He is going again though by the looks of things. Who else is on a lap at the moment? We've got one of the McLarens up to the line.
Yeah, he's just starting his lap.
Yeah.
Agrobanen's invalidated. Hardy's out of it. Dylan could be a good shout.
Possibly, yeah. The 2 Toro Rossos are still going for it. I think actually Matty's backed off by the looks of things.
Yep, Matty's gone.
Both Toro Rossos are into the pit lane then, so it is looking like Dylan's going to be next across the line, although he has already done 2 laps on these tyres, and he has invalidated by the looks of things as well, so he's not going to be improving. We're just waiting for the Renaults now. Sparholt's on a lap. He's 0.3 of a second up. He is improving on his time.
That's it. Apart from Sparholt, I think that's it.
I think that does look like it. Let's clear some Sparholt around the last corner. Let's see what he can do, and it's an 11.7. Another person incredibly close to one another. He goes P7 ahead of Matty and just behind Toxic in the end. Other than that,
we're just... that, though, from 3rd down to 10th, just 0.3 of a second separating them. Actually, 3rd down to 11th.
Yeah. 0.3 of a second, wow. That's crazy. We've got 3 people in the 11.6s, 3 in an 11.7, and 2 on 11.9. And then even below that, we've got 3 people on a 12.2. It just goes to show how quick this is again. But in the end, only one person went for the alternate tyre strategy, and that was Dylan. So he's going to start the race on the soft tyres at the front. So a bit of a mixed strategy then. So only Dylan in the end starts on the softs.
Yeah, and he's done a few laps on them already, which is not going to help him. He's going to be pitting in like the first 3 laps.
Yeah, the soft tyres are notoriously bad around this track. They do die very quickly, and that can catch people out. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see when exactly he pits. But that's the end of qualifying, so let's see what the running order is then. So it's Dylan who ends up on pole position, only by 1.5 in the end over Lewis in second, our championship leader. Well ahead of his championship rivals at the moment in qualifying. Bullet Boy takes P3 ahead of McCrew in P4. Mike's P5 ahead of Toxic down in P6. Sparholt is 7th ahead of Matty 8th. Daniel 9th, and Patrick rounds out the top 10. First person outside the top 10 is Janetsky. Then it's just Chris. Toxic Jack, Jay Luke, Hypes, Cohen, Aquaplaning and Hardy round out the finishers for qualifying.
And then we have Callum at the back.
Yeah, Callum at the back joined midway through qualifying as well. But actually starting outside the top 10 with the weather coming in may not be a bad thing.
I was going to say, Also, another thing, Hardy and Toxic, very lucky not to get a 5th place good job if they came into contact in qualifying.
Yeah, I was actually riding on board with Toxic when that happened as well. I think Hardy moved out of the way and then misjudged his braking point for turn 2 and just slammed straight into the side of Toxic. I don't know if Toxic was thinking of going for another run or not, but that was a real shame in the end, and it is very overcast for the start of this race, so maybe the rain's going to arrive earlier than people think.
Yeah, and for Dylan, this could be an absolute nightmare because he's going to have to pit early, and if everyone else can take their tyres to the conditions changing, Dylan's going to be in trouble.
He really is, yeah. He's going to have to hope maybe for an early safety car or of some sort so that he can change onto a set of medium tyres and then take those to the wet weather conditions. But yeah, like you say, he's not going to be able to take those soft tyres to the weather, so he's kind of out of sync with everyone else around him. We'll wait and see, though, what the tyre strategies are for everyone outside the top 10. Wait and see if anyone's gone for the hards or whether they stuck with the medium tyres.
Well, from what I remember that from this track, you can take the mediums around 18 laps, I think is the most I've seen someone do, 18 to 20, so...
It is a real risk. It's definitely a gamble starting on the mediums as well. If the rain's not going to come to the very end of the race, then it is a
very
real
mixed
gamble.
outside the top 10.
Oh, wow, yeah. So, just looking outside the top 10 then, only Janetsky, Toxic and Hardy, which is 11th place, 13th and 18th place are starting on the mediums. Everyone else has decided to go for the hard tyres, so that suggests to me that the rain isn't coming until, I'd say, maybe the last 10 laps of the race, because the hards can probably take you to around lap 25 at the most before they really start to go off, but the mediums definitely can't take you that far, so they're maybe predicting that the rain's going to come even later on in the race.
Or are they looking to keep the grip in those tyres long enough? Because there's definitely going to be that crossover period from like lap... I think it's around lap 12 to onwards. The grip advantage goes towards the hards.
Yeah.
So they might be thinking the hards would be a better choice, safer together.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's no guarantee as well that wet weather conditions means that they have to change to intermediate or full wet tyres. It can just be dry tyres, but there's just a little bit of rain, and maybe being on the medium tyres at the end of the race is a better bet. So you never know, that it could be definitely definitely very mixed at the end of the race. But before we get going, Ivor, who do you think is going to finish on the podium today?
I'm not going to say Bullet Boy because every time I have, he's ended up being in it. I'll say Lewis, McCrew, and Toxic.
Fair enough. I probably agree with Lewis winning this race. I think second, I'm going to go for Matty in second. Third, I'm going to put Mike third. That's my prediction. Here we go then, though. Callum, last one to line up on the grid in the Mercedes. And now we just wait for the lights ahead of the drivers. Expect Dylan to get a pretty rapid start compared to people around him. He's obviously starting on the soft tyres. But here come the red lights then ahead of the drivers. The 5 red lights are on. It's a long hold before they go out. A very long hold, and Toxic jumps the start. Toxic jumps the start. It's such a shame. He's got a brilliant start because of it. He's going to have to slot in and not cause any incidents, but that's a drive-through penalty already for one of the Red Bull drivers. Dylan gets a pretty decent start. It's all safe at the moment through turn 1. Hardy had to back out a little bit further back, so he's dropped off the back of the field. It's looking pretty clean in the background, but yeah, like I said, Dylan...
like a bit of lag going on between Toxic Jack at the moment.
Yeah. And aquaplaning falling through the field. I don't know if there's been contact with aquaplaning and Callum, maybe.
Off on the grass.
Oh my word, yeah, someone just shot through my camera on the grass. That was Callum. Yeah, he's dropped down to the back of the field. There's 3 wide in the hairpin. A bit of a squeeze there for Patrick, I think, on the inside. He loses a bit of traction on the grass on the inside of the corner. He just about gets away with it. I don't think there's any damage. But other than a little bit of sideways action for Callum, I think we've had a pretty clean start. Just looking at the front of the field, Mike's run wide. Sparholt's trying to look around the outside. He's trying to do the switch back through the corner. He's got a brilliant exit of Sparholt. That's a brilliant move from Sparholt. We saw that from him last time out in Spain. He was very opportunistic. He made moves when people were making mistakes, and again he's done it here. He moves up to 6 plays ahead of Mike, who's had a pretty poor start so far. Is Toxic going to come into Turvis drive through immediately? Wait until the third lap. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously he can't serve it if any sort of...
Bit of contact there between aquaplaning and Hypes, and
Hypes has got a time penalty.
5 seconds then.
Yeah, time penalty for gaining position off the track. Meanwhile, Dylan and Lewis are really close together. Yeah, Toxic came into the pit lane. Bullet Boy's left the session, unfortunately. I don't know if he's... I think he might have just lagged out the session. Meanwhile, Hypes has sped in the pit lane. Both McLarens have come into the pits, so they're going to have to double stack. One of the, I believe, Toro Rossos is in as well. That was Hypes. Yeah, it's Lewis versus Dylan at the front of the field. Dylan having to go defensive into the hairpin for Lewis. Meanwhile, it's a bit of a gap back to McCrew currently in P3. It would be Bullet Boy there, but he's unfortunately left the session.
And losing positions fast.
Yeah, very fast. He's dropped to 9th already. He was running 3rd. What a shame for Bullet Boy. He just does not have the luck so far this season. See Lewis, though, so much more confident than Dylan already on those soft tyres. Those soft tyres looking like they're reaching the end of their life pretty much immediately. And Dylan has been absolutely swamped at this point by Lewis. Lewis is looking much more confident in the Williams. And he's got a big gap back to the next person on the medium tyres. Meanwhile, Toxic, after his drive-through, has come out down in 16th place behind Callum. And the two McLarens are still running down the back straight at the moment. Aquaplaning has really lost out, having to double stack with Cohen. Meanwhile, Dylan incredibly wide on the exit of the last corner, but he leads coming onto the 3rd lap. Lewis, though, the fastest lap of the race. And through turn 1, Lewis just taps the gravel going into the corner. But DRS is now enabled, and this is looking like it's going to be pretty easy for Lewis to make the move stick. And Dylan actually runs wide at turn 2, I think on purpose to try and get the DRS on the Williams driver. That's definitely a smart.
Looks like it.
Yeah, it's a smart move from Dylan to try and get the DRS, but does he have the straight line speed to actually repass the Williams, or has he just gifted the place? He has to go to the outside. He is ahead going into the braking zone, but Lewis brakes very late. He's trying to force him a little bit wide, and he does. Oh, there's contact between the two of them, and Lewis has rounded into the wall. Dylan was squeezed on the exit of the corner, and Lewis has been spun around. I don't think Lewis has got any damage from it. I think he managed to just about keep it out of the wall, but the championship leader falls to the back of the field. He's behind Hardy. He's falling behind Bullet Boy's AI car. He's nearly behind Toxic at this point as well. So the two championship protagonists at the back of the field after really terrible starts. Dylan, meanwhile's dropped behind McCrew, and Sparholt from nowhere is now 2nd.
And Toxic down the inside. He's got the move done.
Yeah, Toxic, the Red Bull driver, through on his championship rival. He's up to 14th now. He's going to have to chase down the Haas driver of Hardy for P13. I think Lewis is probably going to have a lot to say about that incident. I don't think Dylan wasn't really left the room, but I think at that point in time, Lewis had the corner. I think Lewis had the move done. I don't quite know if Dylan was within his right to be there. Honestly, we've got Dylan into the pits now as well. He's given up on those soft tyres. He's going to drop way down the field at the moment, all the way back down to the Cohen by the looks of things. But like I said,
interestingly enough, he's gone for the hards.
He's gone for the hards. Wow.
That to me indicates that it's going to be towards the end then that we're going to get this ring.
Yeah, definitely looks like that way. Meanwhile, Sparholt on the back of McCrew for the race lead. Sparholt's had a brilliant start to this race. I don't think by the end of lap they would be fighting for the lead, but he's on the back of McCrew. Cohen, meanwhile, sets the fastest lap of the race on a 14.9. Good lap from the McLaren driver. We've got Patrick and Just Chris side by side in the background as well. Patrick, I think, just about keeps the position from the Renault driver, and Janetsky looking to capitalise.
Toxic getting past Hardy.
Yeah, he's making his way past the Haas driver, and he is through. So that's one more place for Toxic. He's nearly back into the points now. Meanwhile, Callum in front of him on the hards as well is running around. The lead hard runner at the moment is Just Chris in 7th in the race. He's in a good position at the moment, but he's got Janetsky all over the back of him. Toxic Jack, meanwhile, is just past Jay Luke by the looks of things, so he's up into 9th in the Alfa Romeo. Well, need to catch a breath a little bit after that start. That was a pretty eventful start to this race, but once again, Sparholt, I think we're going to have to call him the king of capitalisation. He capitalises on everyone else's mistakes, and he's again jumped through the field after a brilliant start, and he's up to 2nd already. What a great start for the Renault driver.
Bullet Boy is back in the session, and even though he'll be upset that he lagged out, he'll probably be a bit happier knowing that Toxic and Lewis are not too far ahead of him.
Yeah, he's not quite out of it just yet. He's just behind Dylan at the moment, who's obviously made his pit stop, and we know that safety cars are prominent in this game. Again, Cohen with the fastest lap. That's a shame for the McLaren driver that he had to pit on lap 1, because he looks like he's got a lot of pace in that McLaren. He's running down at the moment in 17th place, which is a shame for him. Meanwhile, Toxic made his way past Callum, I think. Toxic working his way back through pretty swiftly. Lewis not quite able to keep with him at the moment. It's almost kind of the reverse of Spain. Lewis was able to slice his way through the field after the pit stops, and Toxic couldn't quite follow him. And this time round, it looks like it's Toxic that's slicing his way through, and Lewis can't quite keep the same pace at the moment. Meanwhile, Just Chris and Patrick side by side. Wow, look at this into the stadium section. The Renault and the Ferrari driver. Chris thinks about keeping it on the inside, but Patrick just about holds P6. But Just Chris on those hard tyres has pretty good pace. He's trying to get past the Ferrari driver, The Ferrari driver looks like he's holding up him and his holding up Just Chris and his teammate at the moment. So hard runner Just Chris has got a lot of good pace in that Renault as well. The two Renaults absolutely flying at this point.
Yeah, and it's looking like the top four has started to drop Daniel a bit. He's in a bit of a no man's land.
Yeah, running 2 seconds behind Matty and 1.5 seconds ahead of Patrick at the moment. Meanwhile, Toxic sets the fastest lap of the race, and he's now already a second clear of Callum, so he's broken that DRS pretty quickly. Meanwhile, let's have a look at Just Chris on the back of Patrick. I think Sparholt is thinking about a move into the hairpin, but he's just not quite close enough to make the move stick. Here goes Chris to the outside of the Ferrari driver. Is he going to... He squeezes the door ever so slightly on the apex of the corner, but good racing between these two. Great traction from the exit of the corner, and Chris has finally been able to make that move stick, and he's up into 6th place. He's made his way past Patrick in the Ferrari. Can Patrick come back at him at the next corner? He's down the inside. Chris leaves him enough space. He's a little bit on the curb on the outside, but Chris is able to just defend the place. Great driving from Chris. Good overtake, and he's through. And meanwhile, I think there's actually...
Janetsky's through.
Yeah, Janetsky's through as well. He ran very wide, though. I don't know if he just made that overtake stick off the track, so he might have to let his teammate through. He does, and he's got to be careful. He's let Toxic Jack through as well, so the Alfa Romeo capitalises on Janetsky's mistake, and the Alfa man is up into P8.
Yep, and already on the back of this train is Toxic, and Lewis has now got past Callum.
Yeah,
so
Lewis past Callum.
Won't be too far off it.
Yeah, he's not going to be far off this queue now, but yeah, Toxic Jack is definitely lagging on my end. He's definitely struggling with his connection at the moment. But yeah, Toxic now on the back of J. Luke. Meanwhile, Lewis picks up a time penalty on the exit of turn 1. I think that's the first time penalty we've seen that's track warnings related and not related to some sort of collision. Meanwhile, Toxic on the back of J. Luke is very confident in that Red Bull in the first sector. He's got great straight line speed. Meanwhile, Janetsky is trying to get back at Toxic Jack as well. We're right on board with Toxic into the hairpin. He goes to the inside. He does a little switchback move on the Williams driver. He's down the inside. J-Luke leaves him just enough room, but J-Luke's going to have the better traction on the exit. Or is he, though? Toxic gets brilliant traction on the inside. And he's through. He's up into P10. He's back into the points as the Red Bull driver after his drive-through.
Yes, and Lewis right now, he needs to start to pick up the pace a little bit to try and get through these guys.
Yeah, he really does. He's not quite able to, like I said, he's not quite able to keep with Toxic at the moment. He's not quite got the same pace, but now that Toxic's in that queue of cars, this is Lewis's opportunity to try and capitalise on that and try and catch back up to the Red Bull driver. Toxic Jack, meanwhile, his connection is really poor at the moment. He is jumping back and forwards on my end. Sparholt picks up a time penalty now on the exit of turn 1. The top 4, like you said, really starting to break away. Daniel's now 3.5 seconds back almost, running in a race on his own at the moment for the Racing Point driver.
A little bit of a slide there on the exit of turn 1. Does hold it though.
Well held then. But here goes, is Toxic going to make another move stick now? Is he going to try and get past Janetsky? I don't think he's quite close enough actually. It's 0.4 of a second. I don't think he's quite close enough considering the Ferrari driver has DRS'd himself as well. Meanwhile, Lewis is let past by J. Luke, so Lewis is now through on his teammate. His teammate doesn't put up a fight, and Lewis is now going to be right on the back of the Red Bull driver once again. Let's have a look at the front of the field now. McCrew and Sparholt still pretty much nose to tail. They're starting to drop Mike ever so slightly. Matty's sticking with the Mercedes driver. Meanwhile, Aquaplaning picks up a time penalty now. But yeah, it's kind of it's 2x2 at the moment at the front of the field. It's McCrew and Sparholt, and then it's Mike and Matty. Daniel running on his own. Chris was starting to gap Patrick, but I think he made a little bit of an error at the end of the second sector, and Patrick's back within fighting range, back within DRS range. Oh, is it raining already? It is. Wow, the rain's come already.
And Toxic definitely inside at the penultimate corner.
Brilliant move. A really opportunistic place to make a pass there for Toxic. He's already through. But yeah, Toxic up into P9 past the Ferrari driver. But yeah, the rain coming down already. That's very early on in the race. The hard runners are going to be absolutely shocked it's come down so quickly. But that is a real shame for the likes of Chris, who thought that the hards would take them to the rain at the end of the race. And the rain's come at lap 9.
And for Dylan as well, because that's absolutely destroyed his strategy.
That really has, yeah. Down in 15th, he was just about to get onto the back of Hardy as well, but he's running way down. Patrick, meanwhile, back on Just Chris up the inside. The medium tyres are going to have more grip in the damp conditions than the hard tyres, and Patrick is back up into P6.
I just saw Toxic Jack's car just literally do a bunny hop and just drop 3 positions.
Yeah, on my end, Toxic Jack's car keeps jumping in and out of AI mode, and I think his car's actually just spun. Yeah. I think the lags actually caught him out and he ran into the back of Janetsky's car. That is a shame for Toxic Jack. He drops down to P13 now.
Well, I'm sure Toxic and everyone else would be kind of happy with that, 'cause it's nothing worse than changeable conditions, driving around someone with terrible lag.
Yeah, that is definitely, it can definitely catch a lot of people out. It has me in the past, I know that. Meanwhile, Matty now picks up a time penalty. He's one of the leaders now to pick up a time penalty. Has the rain actually... It's not coming down very hard at all with the wet weather, so it's very, very light. It's just spits of rain. It's not really costing people that much in lap time at the moment. So I wonder if it's going to stay this kind of weather for the majority of the race, I wonder. I say that...
It's going to be interesting as Toxic now all over the back of just Chris.
Yeah, Patrick has actually moved to the inside and is giving the Red Bull driver a slipstream. Is he going to take 2 in 1? How late does Toxic be on the brakes? Not late enough, but Patrick's a little bit deep into the corner. Toxic has made his way.
Switch back, but doesn't work out for him.
No, but Toxic up into P7. He's working his way back through the field very well as the Red Bull driver. Meanwhile, Lewis still stuck outside of the DRS range on Janetsky. Ooh.
Oh, that's very close there.
Round the outside of the next corner. He's got to keep it on the track, not getting a penalty for it, and he gets the move done. Brilliant move, yeah.
From Toxic. And now he's got that lovely almost 3-second gap to kind of chew into.
Yeah, he's got 3 seconds of aquaplaning spun at the moment on the back straight, I believe. That's a shame for him. I think his race at the moment could get any worse, unfortunately. But yeah, like you say, Toxic now has some clean air to try and eat into, really. And meanwhile, Lewis
hasn't even got through any of these guys yet.
No, and just Chris really struggling on those hard tyres now. Janetsky trying to get past. This is Lewis's chance to capitalise now that these guys are fighting. Yeah, starting to allow Patrick to disappear up into the distance as well, just a little bit.
McCrew and Sparhold.
Oh, the race leaders.
Hairpin.
Sparholt down the inside. McGrew's going to get the better traction on the exit. Sparholt can't make the move stick. Meanwhile, Matty in the background has passed Mike. Mike struggling in these conditions, and Matty has made his way up onto the podium places. So Mike drops to 4th. Meanwhile, Janetsky and Just Chris again, and Lewis as well. They're nearly 3 wide. They thought about it. I think Lewis had to back out of that one, but Janetsky's up into P8 now ahead of the Renault driver. Lewis down the inside.
This Renault.
He does. Oh, Chris doesn't really leave him a lot of room, but they just about get away with it.
There.
Yeah, they just about get away with it. Lewis wide on the corner, but again, Lewis not able to make the move stick. Meanwhile, Toxic has taken nearly a second out of Daniel already. Toxic is absolutely flying. He's broken DRS range to Patrick already as well. Brilliant speed from him, but
he's
Lewis,
only 9 seconds off the lead now, and he had to make that drive-through.
He's
That's
had
incredible pace from Toxic.
It's really a case of what could have been. I think aquaplaning spun again coming onto the back straight, which is a shame for him. Toxic uses a lot of inside curb at turn 1, but doesn't get a penalty. That might be just a warning for him. Meanwhile, let's have a look at the race leader. Sparholt only 0.4 of a second back. Does Sparholt think about a move on the racing point for the lead? He thinks Spatty is closing in. He's very late on the brakes. He has a look down the inside. McCrew leaves him the space, but Sparholt doesn't really go for the move. It was more just of a look to try and...
But I think he does get past Mike.
And the 2 Ferraris again. Janetsky down the inside of Patrick. Is Janetsky late on the brakes? He just gets us up. Oh, Just Chris slams into the side of Patrick's car. They're just to get away with no damage, I think. And Lewis is still stuck behind these guys, but Patrick loses out to Janetsky, his teammate now. Just Chris and Patrick side by side into the next corner. We're on board with Lewis. Let's see if Lewis can capitalise. Chris is wide. Chris is off the track. He comes back on. Lewis has to back out, and he can't make the move stick again. Lewis is really struggling to get past these guys now.
Yeah, Lewis already now has lost nearly 4 seconds to Toxic.
Wow. He has a look down the inside of the bank corner. That's not really a move. Meanwhile, McCrew's into the pit lane. It's not wet conditions yet, surely. Surely not. It is not wet enough yet for intermediate tyres. There's inters coming out for one of the McLarens. And it is is it inters? It is. It's intermediates for McCrew. That's a real gamble.
We gotta check these times because it doesn't look wet enough just yet.
No, it definitely isn't wet. I'm sure that it's not wet enough. There's no spray. DNS is still enabled. I don't think it's wet enough. I think McCrew's jumped the gun too early. Callum's in as well. Dylan's retired from the session. He's hit the wall. Meanwhile, Toxic, his teammates on the inside of Daniel, and there's a virtual safety car. Lewis gets a 5-second time penalty for a collision with Chris. I think Toxic just got the move done on Daniel as well before the virtual safety car came out. Or did he? I think he might be letting Daniel back through, maybe. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see.
I think they were exactly level going into the VSC coming out, so... Interesting. I'm going to go on board with McCrow. I want to see how he's coping with these inters.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Toxic is slowing down a little bit. I don't know if Toxic's actually trying to let Daniel through, and Daniel's just not passing him. Matty, a drive through. Matty from second place, a drive through for speeding under the virtual safety car. What a shame. DRS is re-enabled from the virtual safety car restart. But Toxic now into fourth. That's going to be third now when Matty comes in, and Mike's in as well. It's surely too early for intermediates. It's not wet enough at this point, surely.
No, I'm looking at McCrew. He is losing a few tenths every corner to J. Luke ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, McCrew really struggling by the looks of things.
So at the moment, I'd say Sparhold is our
net race leader. Yeah, just look at McCrew.
Wow. 6 seconds.
Just looking at McCrew through turn 1. Bullet Boy took nearly 9/10 of a second out of McCrew at turn 1 and is already through on the racing point. So Bullet Boy back up into the top 10 after lagging out early on. Mike came out of the pit lane and has cut the gap down to McCrew by about 2 seconds after staying out an extra lap, but he's put the inters on. So...
Oh, Lewis and Chris locking wheels.
Lewis all the way to the inside of the track. Here comes Jay Luke as well, trying to get in on the action. Chris, is he trying to cut back to the inside? No, I think he's giving up on the move this time round. Lewis up into P6. But look at the gap he's lost now to Toxic. It is huge. Toxic's already in the third sector of the lap. But Sparholt must be thinking that Christmas has come early. Everyone else has come around and put the inters on and is pitted by the looks of things way too early. Sparholt stays out another lap. But everyone else around him has either fallen by the wayside because of penalties and incidents, or they've put the inters on too early. One of the McLarens is round.
I'll go planning again.
He's on the intermediate tyres and he's spun, so I wonder if those intermediate tyres are now starting to overheat because it is too dry. Meanwhile, Toxic.
That's the first penalty for Toxic.
Yeah. We've got Jay, Luke and just Chris now into the pit lane. Are they going to put intermediates on? They are. A lot of people risking intermediate tyres at this point, and I don't think it's a very bold move considering the fact that you can see McCrew is... Oh, McCrew's round! McCrew's hit the wall on the exit of turn 1. He hit the curb and he's hit the wall, and he's on the pit lane exit as well.
McCrew's disqualified.
He's disqualified for blocking the pit lane. Oh,
that is harsh.
That is really harsh, yeah. Harsh. That is such a shame for McCrew. He was spun on the pit exit and he just couldn't get out of the way in time. But that is a real shame. Meanwhile, Aquaplaning's into the barriers again. Aquaplaning's out of the race. He's hit the barriers in the end. And virtual safety car again. Another virtual safety car. People on the inters really struggling for grip. The rain is starting to come down a little heavier now. But it's still not close enough yet for intermediate tyres. There's no spray on the track from the tyres, and there's no change in the track condition by the looks of things from wet to dry.
This is what I'm looking at right now. Hardy, he's got just Chris directly behind him, and he's 2.2 behind Mike.
Yeah. It's now
Hardy, I know, is not going to be... He's not going to be setting fantastic laps because he's brand new to the wheel, but he is catching.
Sparholt, meanwhile, pits and puts the intermediate tyres on. Another one, a race leader that gambles again, but look at the gap he's got to... Well, Mike was the closest person to him. Well, Mike and Matty. Matty's into the pit lane as well. I think he's going to put the inters on after his drive through. Mike was the closest to Sparholt. Sparholt has gapped Mike massively in the last few laps. But I still think it's too early for intermediates at this point.
I mean, saying that, Sparhold, we'll see in this second sector what the gap is, because Lewis is no slouch.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he's going to gain or lose out.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at Patrick as well on the back of Sparholt to see what Patrick's pace is like on the medium tyres compared to the Renault, and he is keeping up at the moment.
Yeah, Sparhold has made a mistake here. He's gone way too early.
Yeah. Sparholt might get away with it because he had a pretty big lead, and I mean, just looking on the mini-map, Mike isn't even in the second sector yet. Sparholt's nearly coming around to finish the lap, but you can just see from on board Patrick that Sparholt is really struggling for grip. So, at this point, does that mean Toxic's in the prime position if he stays out long enough? Could Toxic end up winning this race? Patrick, meanwhile, down the inside of Sparholt at the last corner, and Patrick's through. It's still too early for intermediate tyres.
Yeah, it's looking like it's a bit too early, and I'm looking at that gap between Toxic and Sparhold. It is now 11 seconds. That gap's getting bigger. Toxic could pit and come out ahead of Mike in 8th place.
Yeah, he'd be way ahead of Mike. I want to see actually what the gap is at the moment between... let's see what the gap
17
is.
seconds between Sparhold and Mike.
Wow, 17 seconds. They were only about 3.5 seconds apart coming into the pit stop window. 17 seconds. Sparhawk could pit again and almost come out ahead of Mike. Wow, what a... It just goes to show how much grip those medium tyres have. The rain is coming down a little heavier now as well. But... wow, personally, I'm very shocked that so many people came in for intermediate so early on. Janetsky, meanwhile, is up to second. Again, Janetsky, one of those people that runs around bottom end of the top 10 for most of the race.
But then through on Sparhold.
Yeah, Bullet Boy working his way back through the field then. But yeah, like I said, Janetsky, one of those people that runs around at the bottom end of the top 10, and then when other people make mistakes or make poor calls, Janetsky just jumps through the field, and again, he's back up into second place. Another race where Janetsky is very good at reading the race and reading what's happening on track, and being able to keep out of trouble. Oh, as I say that, he has a massive moment on the exit of turn 1, very well held, but Christ almighty, he was nearly completely round. Very well held from the Ferrari driver. He is dropping back from Toxic, and he's got Daniel all over him at the moment.
Well, I'm just looking at this this gap between Sparhold and Toxic. It is now almost 14 seconds, so Toxic is almost in that window where you can pit and come out directly behind Sparhold.
Yeah, meanwhile, Bullet Boy's past Patrick now, so Bullet Boy back up into P5. He's really trying to work his way back through the field after that early desync. He's doing really well to work his way back up into P5. Janetsky, meanwhile, has been overtaken by Daniel, so Daniel in the racing point back up into second place.
And the gap between Lewis and Toxic, 9.2 seconds now.
Wow. It just goes to show, Daniel was a little bit wide there, and Janetsky trying to come back at him, but there's not really a move. The move's not really able to be pulled off there. At this point in the race, though, the people on the medium tyres are going to be very near puncture territory. So the problem for them is, at the moment, and it does honestly look like the rain has eased a little bit, pitting for really the right choice yet because it's not wet enough. But do you want to put a set of dryers on them and hope that the rain stays on? Meanwhile, Daniel continues on, top 6 in.
It's in does. Now, I just saw that gap. It's come down massively.
Intermediates. Yeah, intermediates for the race leader. Still, DRS is still enabled at the moment, but it is definitely starting to change, I think.
And look at that, Toxic's coming out of the pits now, and Sparhold hasn't even got into turn 2 yet.
Wow, look at that. He's pretty much halved the gap to the Renault driver in about 2 laps. And Janetsky has come out ahead of Mike as well.
Yeah, comfortably ahead.
Yeah. Wow, about 7 seconds clear of Mike. Janetsky's jumped Mike and Matty and just Chris in all of this.
And then we got Sparhold past Patrick.
Yeah, it's changing now. We've reached the crossover period, so
Toxic has called that beautifully.
He really has.
So is Janetsky.
Yeah, Toxic and Janetsky, I think, are the ones that have absolutely mastered that. But Sparholt, I think Sparholt's very lucky that he had the lead that he had. Otherwise, if the leader was a lot shorter, Toxic would have jumped him. But are Sparholt's tyres is he able to keep any good life in them? Because obviously they would have been running around on a drier track for a few laps. That's definitely going to take some life out of them.
Right, well, I'm interested to see now, because Daniel, Lewis and Bullet Boy are going to come out around where Mike and Matty is.
Yeah. Let's have a look and see then. They're all into the pits by the looks of things. Yep, they're all in. Cohen speeds in the pit lane, meanwhile he's running down in 16th at the moment. So Sparholt then, he retakes the lead. So it's going to be Sparholt leading from Toxic. Who would have thought that Toxic second in place in this race after having a drive-through penalty on the first lap? What a comeback from him. Oh, he had a bit of a slide there for turn 1.
Lewis had the 5-second stop though, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Completely forgot about that. He comes out then, he's behind Patrick. Where is Mike? Mike's coming through turn 1. It's going to be pretty close between these two. Mike's on the outside. Here comes Mike ahead of Lewis. Mike's going to be just ahead of the Williams driver. So he takes P7. Ball, but he's very deep into turn 2. Lewis is going to repass him. Yeah, Lewis is through. So a mistake there from Mike. Who would have thought?
Bullet Boy with that desync and Toxic with the drive-through.
2nd and 5th. Wow. Just goes to show that you can never really give up on races because anything can happen. We've got another virtual safety car. Callum spun at turn 1 now. Another casualty. That's the third one this race now. We've had Dylan and
Turn
McCrew
one
off.
again.
Yeah, we've had Dylan and McCrew off, and now we have Callum. It's a real race of attrition at the moment. People kind of going off left, right, and centre, and a real race of strategy calls. But the top two now have a pretty sizable lead to third place. But Janetsky, who was running around fighting for P8 and 9, is now in a podium position.
Yeah, and Bullet Boy, who at one point when he rejoined was all the way down in like 17th place, is now up into 5th.
Yeah.
With an opportunity to get 4th because he's right on the back of Daniel now.
He really is, and Daniel's on the back of Janetsky, so don't count Bullet Boy out of a podium just yet. We've got going again. One thing to note, though, is that DRS is still enabled. It has not been disabled yet, so it's still kind of on that crossover period between intermediates and dry tyres. So those on the intermediates aren't going to have all the confidence in the world.
Bullet Boy to the inside for turn 2.
Yeah, he goes down the inside of the racing point. Ooh, a little bit of a squeeze from Daniel, but I think Bullet Boy might have this one on the outside of the corner. He does, he gets the better run through. And the Afro Man's up to 4th. What a brilliant comeback from Bullet Boy. Is he close?
He's going to get Janetsky as well.
He is, yeah.
Look at the overspeed.
Great straight line speed in that Alfa Romeo. Goes to the outside. How late does he want to be on the brakes? I think he's going to try and switch back, but Daniel's late on the brakes and stops that from happening. But Janetsky's wide off the exit of the corner anyway. He's in the grass, and Bullet Boy's up to 3rd. Can Daniel take P4 from the Ferrari driver? Meanwhile, Patrick and Lewis are battling in the background. Daniel isn't able to make the move past on Janetsky either, but wow, Bullet Boy's now up into 3rd.
Wing damage.
Yeah, very lucky to get away with that one. Lewis is wide again. Patrick's through now. Not Lewis, other way around. Patrick's wide. Lewis is through, so Lewis is back up into P6 now. And that's going to put Mike on the back of the Ferrari driver as well. We've still got Hypes running around on the medium tyres.
Yeah, I think Hypes is just thinking they haven't disabled DRS, the mediums are faster.
Well, actually, if you look at his gap between him and J. Luke, the gap is coming down. Hypes is catching J. Luke at this point in the race. It's actually coming down quite a bit. It's about 2/10 a corner.
That's because J. Luke's gone to left.
Ah, well, that makes more sense. Well, that's why then. That's why. Yeah. Lewis, another time penalty.
Second penalty.
Let's keep an eye on the gap though between Hypes and just Chris. Maybe let's see if that gap comes down at all. Hypes is continuing on. 18 laps on those medium tyres. They are definitely nearing the end of their life.
Daniel on Janetsky and Daniel down the inside. And look at the gap Bullet Boy's already got to him.
Wow. He's broken DRS range, I think, already. He has broken DRS range quite comfortably in a lap. And he's through. Yellow flag in sector 1. That's Hardy. That's round another one at turn 1. And that's our 4th that virtual safety car of this race, I think, now. So that's 4 drivers that have been caught out by turn 1. It's a shame for Hardy. Obviously, his first race on wheel. Hasn't quite gone his way, but definitely more to build on for him. But at the moment, Sparhot seems pretty comfortable in the lead. Toxic's not really closing the gap at the moment. Sparhot pretty safe at the moment. Let's see how many positions people have gained in this race, just based on the grid positions. So Sparhot at the moment leads the race after starting P7 on the grid, so he's gained 6 places. Toxic has gained 4 overall from his grid slot. Daniel's gained 5. Janetsky's gained 6. Matty,
he's done it again.
Another one. Another drive-through penalty then for Matty. Wow.
I don't understand. Like, Matty, it can't be that hard to keep the Delta green.
It's such a shame. I think it's the case of him trying to be as close to the Delta as possible and then just misjudging it when it gets going again, because obviously you don't know when it's going to get going. And it's caught him out again. That's going to put his teammate, who's still on the medium tyres, right on the back of him now. So it'll be interesting to see between the two Toro Rossos what the pace is and whether Heights can keep with Matty. Janetsky and Daniel, meanwhile, are still going at it. Janetsky down the inside of Daniel, but he's a little bit wide on the exit of the corner. Daniel's going to get a better run, maybe. No, Janetsky keeps the place. There's a battle going on in the background as well. Lewis still hasn't broken DRS and Patrick, so Patrick's trying to come back at the Williams driver now. And Mike's just there as well. He's not far behind.
Hopes with DRS gets past.
Wow. So he is passing his teammate. Can he keep ahead of his teammate, or is he going to struggle to stay ahead? He gapped him by 0.5 of a second. We'll have to keep an eye on that gap and see whether he can pull away from his Toro Rosso teammate. But if Hypes is able to pull away from Matty on 19-lap-old medium tyres, then would it have been
Nah, he's
worth...
being caught in the corners.
See, as he comes through into the stadium part of the lap, Toxic with another time penalty. We've had just Chris have a spin. He's had a spin now in the Renault.
I saw the Renault and I immediately jumped onto the spar hole just to see.
Yeah, it's just Chris that had spun in the middle part of the stadium section. Yeah, it does look like Matty's got more grip mid-corner. But
I'll tell you what, right now, it looks like Toxic is going to drop behind Bullet Boy.
Possibly, yeah. Look at the gap the Bullet Boy's given to Janetsky. It's nearly 5 seconds. Bullet Boy's absolutely flying. Daniel, is he going to come back at the Ferrari driver? He's not close enough. So Daniel stays in P5 at the moment. Meanwhile, Lewis can't drop Patrick at the moment. Patrick is staying with him, and Lewis isn't really catching the two in front. This is a bit bizarre, really, from the Williams driver. He was pretty dominant last time out. Whatever the race threw at him at Spain, he conquered and won. But this time round, he just does not quite have the pace to slice through the field like he did last time. And he's always really sideways there. Sheesh, how he held that. Fair enough, but that's going to put Patrick all over the back of him now.
You think he's gone for more of a dry setup?
It's definitely possible.
Got a little bit wrong.
He's really pushing his luck, isn't he? He's all over the road. I think his tyres might be overheating at this point. But yeah, Patrick's all over the back of him now.
He's in.
He's into the pits, is Lewis. Is this a change of strategy? Do you think he's going to put dry tyres on, maybe? I wonder what he's going to do at this point.
Mike's in as well.
Mike's in as well. Mike's putting medium tyres on by the looks of things.
Yeah, Mike on the mediums and...
soft tyres for Lewis. That's a stretch for Lewis, taking soft tyres about 10 laps in this race. That's a real ask for the Williams driver, but let's see what kind of pace he has. He's going to come out just ahead of Matty, I think. The thing for Hypes is, I know that obviously Matty's on intermediate tyres. Hypes has been running around on those medium tyres for 21 laps, so even if the driver's the better tyre, his tyres are going to be near puncture territory by this point in the race.
Yeah, I think Hypes needs to duck out and chuck on a set of hards or inters or something.
It's really, it's not quite working out for Hypes. He's trying to make up for the fact that he got caught up in an incident early on in the race, which is fair enough.
Actually, Hypes has already made a pit stop.
Yeah, he had an incident early on in the race, I believe, and had to pit pretty early on. So he can take this to the end. Whether he will be able to is a completely different story. I don't think he quite will be able to, if I'm honest. But
and Lewis is actually gapping Matty right now.
And he's catching just Chris hand over fist.
So it's gone back to dries. I wonder if...
Janetsky's in.
Janetsky has called it. I wonder if Sparhold and Toxic and Bullet Boy, who's going to be the first one to blink out of those?
Yeah, who's just the same. Janetsky's gone for the soft tyres as well. Just Chris is in. So Lewis isn't going to be able to pass him on track. But look at that. Lewis has a lot more grip. Look at how much it's gapped Matty already. And Mike's on the back of Matty now as well. It has converted back to dry tyres. Janetsky nearly jumped by Lewis. Janetsky about 4 seconds clear coming into before the pit stops. Is now only just ahead of Lewis. It's dry tyres again. The rain's easing. It's got to be dry tyres now.
And if Lewis was able to get 4 seconds on Janetsky, the gap between Bullet and Toxic and Sparhold is around that kind of gap, so whoever blinks is going to gain
Lewis down the inside of Janetsky. Janetsky's going to try and keep it around the outside. He's on the curb. Got to be careful of the traction on the curb, and as I say that, Janetsky gets a little bit sideways. He loses the traction on the exit of the corner, and Lewis is through.
Sparhold stays out. Is Toxic coming in?
This is very crucial. Toxic stays out. He's very sideways. What does Bullet Boy do? Bullet Boy's in.
Bullet's in.
Now, this is interesting. What can Bullet do on dry tyres compared to the two leaders?
Daniel's in.
Yeah, is Patrick going to come in as well? Patrick stays out. He continues on. Oh, but you can see how much the people on the intermediates are struggling for grip. They're really sliding all over the place. It is incredibly difficult because it's pretty much on the bubble and it kind of changes from lap to lap. Look at that, Bullet Boy.
Daniel.
Wow, yeah, Lewis has passed Daniel, and look how close Lewis is to Bullet Boy. Bullet Boy had about 7 seconds in hand to Lewis, and it's now down to 2.5. With one good outlap, Bullet Boy could possibly be close enough to steal the race lead from Sparholt. What a topsy-turvy end to this race, but I'm very surprised that neither Sparholt or Toxic decided to come in on that lap. They're playing it very safe. They don't want to obviously come in and then maybe go wet again, but it's a real gamble to take. Meanwhile, Janetsky's not let Lewis go just yet. Janetsky's keeping up with the Williams driver. And you can look at the gap that Matty has fallen back now. Matty is 3 seconds behind Mike.
Sparholt staying out again. What about Toxic?
He's staying out again. Both leaders have stayed out. What a bizarre call.
Okay, so if they come into the pits, they effectively given up the...
They've given up track position, yeah. They've given up track position at this point. There's no way that, especially Toxic's, there's no way Toxic's going to keep ahead of Bullet Boy. Patrick stays out for another lap. Let's see how quickly Bullet Boy catches Patrick. In the last corner it was 3.1. On the exit of the corner it's 2.6. Half a second in the last corner alone. I wonder if...
the gap between Sparholt and Bullet is 21.5 seconds. So if
it's on the bubble.
Pits, he's given up the lead.
Yeah, as Matty's in. Matty's given up with those intermediate tyres. He can't continue on. But wow, what a crazy race this has been in terms of strategy.
This has been an absolute strategic mastermind that has to go on. But yeah.
Honest, it really has. And at the moment, the person that's mastered it the best so far has been Bullet Boy and Janetsky as well, who's coming back at Lewis. Janetsky round the outside of the hairpin. He leaves Lewis a lot of space on the inside of the corner. Janetsky again on the curb. He's going to be careful of traction. Lewis is able to get a good exit from the corner, but Janetsky trying to fight back. Goes around the outside into the next corner. Meanwhile, Bullet Boy's passed. Oh, I think a little bit of a snap of oversteer there for Janetsky, and he's off the road. Bullet Boy keeps P5. Janetsky stays in P6 for the time being. But, like I said, Lewis just does not have the pace of the people around him, really. Janetsky's swarming all over him, when in previous races, Janetsky's not been close enough to keep with him. Meanwhile...
Toxic gets a snap at the final corner.
And then both of them stay out. Do you think they're trying to stay out and make it to the end of the race? And Toxic again at turn 1. My word, so sideways. It's complete. The track's almost bone dry at this point. And let's have a look at the gap now. Bullet Boy, is that 17 seconds to Sparholt?
16.8. 16.6.
He's 4 seconds a lap faster than the race leader. And there's 6 laps to go, and the gap's about 16 seconds. Bullet Boy will catch Sparholt and Toxic on track at this point.
And so will Lewis, actually, I think.
Yeah, Lewis and Janetsky maybe as well. Let's see what Janetsky can do. Janetsky's not close enough to Lewis this time round. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 2. That's Toxic Jacques, I think, that's spun.
Yeah, he's just getting out of the way of Sparholt and Toxic.
Fair enough.
14.4 seconds is the gap now between Bullet Boy and Sparholt.
My word. I think at this point it's very odd if Sparholt and Toxic decide to pit now, because they've just left it too late at this point in the race. Does Sparholt come in? Sparholt keeps going. What does Toxic do? He keeps going as well. They're going to try and go to the end of the race by the looks of things, but they're just too slow. At this point in the race, they're too slow. They're going to be caught before they can reach the end. And Toxic's got a puncture. Toxic's got a rear puncture.
Oh, that's heartbreaking for Toxic.
That is such a shame, but that's the problem with running around trying to make the intermediates last, is that it's a completely dry track pretty much. And they're running around with intermediate tyres, they're going to burn out, and Toxic, with a puncture, throws away a possible podium and is going to have to do a full lap with a rear puncture.
That's actually going to be a concern for Lewis as well, because he's on 5-lap old softs.
And obviously Sparholt as well, our current race leader, his tyres are 4 laps older than Toxic's, and Toxic had a puncture. I don't quite understand how Toxic's only been able to go 11 laps on these tyres, because intermediates will probably last you about a half race distance, but they've gone completely. And look at that, Bullet Boy's gap to Sparholt is now 9 seconds. I tell you what, I think my prediction for a race win changes every 5 laps. You can't predict who's going to win this race, but at this point, it looks like Bullet Boy is completely... He's pulled off a stunning comeback as Bullet Boy at this point in the race. He's a second and a half on Sparholt in the first half of the second sector, and Sparholt keeps going. Sparholt is not into the pits. He's continued on.
I mean, that's the only thing Sparholt can do now. If he goes into the pits, he's given up the podium.
He has, yeah. Lewis, meanwhile, his pace has dropped massively. Lewis is now... He's lost about 5 seconds in the last 2 laps to Bullet Boy. Lewis is really struggling for pace, and Janetsky is swarming all over the back of him. Toxic into the pits now.
And he's going to drop... He's going to drop to, like, tail end of the points if he...
He's going to be out of the points.
I don't know, I think he... Actually, yeah, he might actually.
He's going to drop behind the 2 Toro Rossos possibly by this. But what
no, he's coming out now.
Yeah, actually, he's just going to be ahead of them. He's very lucky. It always gets a little bit sideways on the pit exit. But what a bizarre strategy call from Toxic in the end. It was a real comeback for him. But in the end, he's still going to finish behind Lewis by the looks of things. Lewis, once again, after having a poor race, to say the least, in terms of pace, is still going to be able to pull out that championship lead and still pull away from Toxic after 2.
This is a fantastic result for Lewis in the championship.
It really is. Just as not racing and his other championship rival Toxic down in 9th after 2 pretty major mistakes in this race. I don't think Lewis could have really hoped for anything better after this one. Meanwhile, Sparholt is still staying out. We've got 3 laps to go. Sparholt's continuing on. Wow, but Bullet Boy's going to pass him on this lap. Meanwhile, Lewis is now 10.5 seconds off the back of Bullet Boy now.
He's taken 7 attempts out of Sparholt in just turn 1.
Wow, look at that. Coming to the end of the second, after the end of the first sector, it was 2.4. It's now 1.4, 1.1. Sorry.
1.1.
Wow, look at that. 1.3 seconds. It's 1.3 seconds in one sector. I think this
9 attempts now for me.
I think this just goes to show, really, what a shame the first 2 races were for Bullet Boy, because when Bullet Boy's races come together, he is pretty much unstoppable. And it's a shame that his 2 races went so poorly, because he could be and could still be a real championship protagonist in this one if more races go like this. But look at that, he doesn't need to rush a move now. But look at that, look at the grip on the exit of the corner, he just disappears past. Sparholt can't put up a defensive fight for that one, and Bullet Boy takes the lead of the race.
Now the question is, Sparholt, is he going to be able to keep ahead of Lewis?
Well, the problem for Lewis at this point in the race is that his soft tyres are 7 laps old. They're pretty much reaching the end of their life now.
And he's got 6 seconds.
Yeah, he's got 6 seconds as well. I don't know what Sparholt's got. Meanwhile, Mike has made his way past Patrick for P6. Patrick, the other person who's trying to stay out on the intermediate tyres, but he's just gone very, very wide at the start of the stadium section. I think he's just picked up a puncture, actually. He has, yeah, a rear left puncture. He's done exactly the same as Toxic, and he's the next one to suffer. I will say, Sparholt, I'm amazed he's continuing on. Actually, as I say that, Sparholt's punctured. There we go. I think Sparholt's now got a puncture. 6.8 seconds back. He was all over the road, and it's the same puncture as Patrick. It's the same one as Toxic. Sparholt at the start of the lap picks up a puncture, and that's it. That's game over for Sparholt. This is going to put him back behind Toxic now.
Yeah, I think
he's in the grass.
Sparholt,
wow.
I think the big mistake for Sparholt there was not reacting as soon as he saw Bullet Boy getting the third.
Yeah. I think even as he saw Bullet Boy coming into the pit lane, he should have reacted, honestly. It was just too risky to stay out on the intermediates. At least following...
Especially with the mini-maps, you know, close Lewis's car was to him.
Exactly, and the thing is as well with, as I say, that Sparholt spins as well. It could not get worse for this man. 2 laps from home, and this man looked dead set on for a brilliant victory, and it's just not worked out in the end. But even if you put the dry tyres on and it's not the fastest strategy at the end of the race, it's a lot safer option considering how old the intermediates tyres are and how dry the track is. It's just a safer option to follow what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, and from the looks of it looks like Toxic is finally going to get past Sparholt.
Yeah, finally does. It's going to be on the last lap. He's going to be able to get past him, but I don't think it quite in the way you imagine. Sparholt spun again. Sparholt's round and off the road. He's taking the rallycross track. He's got to be careful when rejoining. Just make sure that Matty doesn't crash into the back of him. just to go to show you how topsy-turvy this race has been, Matty's picked up 2 drive-through penalties in this race and is somehow still 8th. Oh, no, oh, is that Toxic round? Toxic spun on the exit of the first corner, and he reset to track as well. Toxic drops it on the exit of the first corner. That's going to let Matty through. Is Hype's going to get through as well? Oh, what a disastrous race this has been for Toxic. Just mistake after mistake after mistake, and on the final lap he's going to drop it in the first corner. He drops behind Matty. Oh, and he's still struggling for grip. I think it's actually back to intermediate conditions for the very fast lap, for the very last lap it looks like. But Hypes is now through.
I mean, this race has been exactly what we thought it would be, an extra bit of spice, and Bullet Boy now through the final corner.
Wow, what a brilliant comeback from Bullet Boy. A brilliant win in the end. That is one of the performances, I think, one of the best performances I've seen in league racing in a while. That was brilliant stuff from Bullet Boy. Great stuff from Lewis as well to come through into second place after a race that really didn't go his way. He takes second. Janetsky isn't able to pass him on penalties, but again...
Daniel is?
Yeah, Daniel's second. Wow. Daniel jumps to second in the end. Mike's obviously not close enough to really capitalise, but once again, Janetsky's the person that capitalises on other people's mistakes. It's a P4 in the end for the Ferrari driver. He's jumping his way up the standings at the moment with these performances. Mike takes 5th ahead of Just Chris, who's 6th. Matty's in 7th at the moment. Let's see when he crosses the line what his penalties do. He nearly catches Just Chris in the end. Toxic crosses the line in 8th. Hypes ends up jumping Toxic. Here comes... And Patrick jumps the pair of them. So Patrick jumps to 8th. Toxic down in 10th. Wow, what a disastrous race for him. J-Luke's going to cross the line still on the intermediates. Fair enough for sticking with it, but in the end it just didn't work for J-Luke. He's going to cross the line in 11th. And Sparholt, oh, he crashes right before the line as well. What an end to Sparholt's race. But my word, that is one of the most chaotic races I think I've ever commentated over.
Sure, we were talking earlier about how good the Germany race was in real life. This was it.
This was pretty much the Germany race in real life, just played out on a game. Wow. But in the end, the predictions of Toxic, McCoo and Lewis on the podium, Lewis stuck with those predictions and ended up finishing second, but Bullet Boy winning from Lewis and Daniel in third. I don't think anyone really could have predicted that result at the start.
I mean, every single time I predict Bullet Boy on the podium, he never gets it, so I didn't predict him on purpose, and he goes on to win it.
I think we have to stick with that strategy for the rest of the season for Bullet Boy and just not predict him to do well, and he will just end up winning races from then on. But even halfway through the race, I don't think we would have predicted that result. Halfway through the race, it looked like Sparholt's race to lose, and Toxic was second, and it was a battle between the likes of Bullet Boy and Daniel for third. But
look at that though. Janetsky from 11th up to 4th. Chris from 6th, 12th to 6th.
Yeah.
Hypes 15th to 9th.
Again, brilliant races from Janetsky and Mike as well. Everyone really capitalising on people's mistakes. But yeah, Bullet Boy wins from Daniel ahead of Lewis in 3rd. Janetsky 4th ahead of Mike in 5th. It's Chris 6th ahead of Matty 7th. Patrick is in 8th ahead of Hypes 9th. Toxic rounds out the top 10. What a race this could have been.
He does get the fastest lap, so he does get 2 points out of it.
Yeah, he gets 2 points out of it, but it's really what this race could have been for him. J-Luke outside the points in 11th, and Sparholt's the first retirement in 12th. That was halfway through, 10 laps to go. That looked like the race winner of this one, but in the end, Sparholt finishes 12th. Toxic Jack in 13th. They had a Hardy, Callum, Cohen, Dylan, and McCrew all did not finish this race. But wow,
kudos to both Bullet Boy and Daniel for not getting penalties around this track.
Yeah, kudos to them. Brilliant results from them as well. But what we'll do is we'll do the same as we did last week. We'll try and get the top 3 in for a couple of interviews, guys. So bear with me 2 seconds as I invite people to the lobby, invite people to the party, and we will try and get some interviews in with our top 3 finishers. There we go. So the invites have gone out then to our top 3 finishers. We'll wait and see if any of them decide to join for final interviews. I'd like to get an interview hopefully with the race winner today. That would be great to see. Just noticed we've had apparently 101 comments on this stream so far. Thank you everyone for being so active in the chat, and thank you everyone for tuning in as well. I think you tuned in for probably an absolutely stellar race in the end. That was, I think so far for me, that was the best race of the season. I don't know if that's your input on it as well, Ivor, but that definitely takes the cake for me.
That's definitely race of the season for me so far.
Yeah, absolutely. That was absolutely brilliant. We'll just wait and see if the other 2 podium finishers decide to join and see if they want an interview. We have got Lewis at the moment here, our 3rd place finisher. We'll just wait and see if either of the other 2 decide to join. I think, in fact, while we wait for the other 2 to join the lobby, we'll get going with Lewis's interview then for P3 in the end. So Lewis, in the end, not quite the same pace that we saw from you in Spain, maybe Bahrain as well, but to come home with a P3 after a pretty chaotic race, you must be pretty pleased with that one.
Yep, I don't really know how I got P3 in the end. The softs pretty much saved me, but I am happy with the performance of where I finished. I think I extend the championship lead as well after Toxic got that puncture.
Yeah, absolutely. Your 2 closest rivals, just as obviously not racing and Toxic finishing down in 10th in the end, and you obviously finishing up in 3rd. Do you think you probably could have got more out of that race, or do you think that P3 was the maximum for you today?
I probably could have got the win if I didn't have that incident at the start of the race, and I got damage from
what
about
happened with that?
620. I think I was on full lock. He was on outside. Our cars just connected and it just bummed me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had damage throughout the whole entire race. Also had a 5-second stop go from one of the VSCs, but apparently I hit someone when I didn't. And yeah.
So yeah, definitely a win could have been on the cards, but still a P3 is a great recovery drive considering the things that went on in that race for you. I think in terms of strategy, a strategy today was pretty much on the fly. You had to kind of make the decisions as they went. Do you think, were you confident that the dry tyres at the end were the right choice, or was that kind of a last minute decision, do you think?
That was a last minute decision because I saw Tyler was pulling away, so I only gathered he was on the softs or mediums. So I thought, he's getting like 4 seconds a lap, I may as well pit and just risk it. I had damage, couldn't really make a gap or anything, so I just went and gambled it. And it made a massive undercut on the cars ahead, and I just carried it on.
Yeah, absolutely. The undercut in the end was really powerful. I think you ended up getting about 4.5, about 5 seconds a lap on the people in front. So brilliant strategy call in the end. One of the strategy calls of the race, actually, to really turn your race around. Looking into the race next week, what are you looking forward to for that one? Do you think the next track is good for you, or is it a weaker track for you?
What is the next track?
That's a good question. The next track is Great Britain.
That's one of my probably best tracks on the game. It's probably going to be a close race as well because qualifying DRS trains, so yeah.
Yeah, going into Britain, who do you think your main rivals are looking into that race?
Probably still and just off.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you for coming in for an interview today, and yeah, congratulations on P3 and congratulations on extending your championship lead as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. By the looks of things, I think the other 2 podium finishers unfortunately aren't going to join us. Brilliant. Fair enough. Let me see if I could re-invite Daniel. Give me 2 seconds. Yeah. I mean,
At 95%.
wow, 95% on lap 33 as well. I mean, it was definitely a gamble for Sparholt, but in the end, obviously, it didn't pay off. And 75% and a puncture, that's right at the earliest you can get one, I believe. So that's pretty unlucky for Toxic, but in the end, I think even if he hadn't got a puncture that early on, I still think it wouldn't have worked by the looks of things. I have sent Daniel an invite. Fingers crossed he's received it, and hopefully he can join us and talk us through his race. Just have to wait and see.
I'm kind of hoping Division 2's not going to be like this.
Yeah, imagine wet conditions like that one as well. I mean, honestly, a race like that, I think for some people it is definitely a pretty frustrating race, and it can be a pretty annoying. But from my perspective, I think taking part in a race like that, I don't know if you agree, Lewis, but taking part in a race like that for me is definitely something that's quite enjoyable because you never really know what's around every corner.
Yeah, very enjoyable indeed. I thought I was going. I nearly spun a couple of times as well because on the
he was on board with you
are
a
a
little
lot
bit.
slipperier than the tries. It was like tries were quicker, but it was Inter's time, but tries were still quicker.
Yeah, I think we noticed that probably when people started first putting the intermediate tyres on, that they weren't sliding all over the place and they weren't understeering off the track, but they just did not have the same pace as the people still running around on the medium tyres. So it was a real case of it changing pretty much every lap. Unfortunately, I don't think Daniel's joining the party by the looks of things, which is a shame. But congratulations to him anyway on his P2 result. That's his best race of the season, and that's going to jump him up the standings pretty well. But yeah, thank you everyone else though for tuning in. Thank you everyone for commenting on the stream. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in about half an hour's time for Division 2. That's being commentated on. I believe we've got a new commentator joining the D2 stream next time later on today. Let me just have a check. Yeah, so it's Hugo commentating as he has been, and then Spag and Chips, his username. He will be joining him in co-coms for Division 2. So you've got 2 commentators next time round. But yeah, tune in for that. Good luck.
Should we do driver of the day?
Oh yes, absolutely. Completely forgot about that. I think driver of the
Bullet.
Yeah, I've got to give it to Bullet Boy as well. I think his comeback was absolutely brilliant. I think he's definitely driver of the day for me. Yeah. Well, brilliant. That's where we're going to end today, guys. Good luck later on as well, Ivor. Good luck for the Division 2.
I need, like I said last week, I need more than luck. I need a miracle.
Well, fingers crossed you get a race like this and it ends up being pretty chaotic, and you may be able to capitalise on that. But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you this time next week for the British race. Thank you very much everyone for watching, and goodbye.